Hello and welcome to this week's Wednesday workshop. Today we're going to be looking at using Microsoft Excel and you probably recognise my voice by now. It's Bruce McLaughlin, the manager of the Knowledge Exchange Centre. You'll remember that in last week's Wednesday workshop we looked at the different toolbars that you use when you're using the three different Microsoft programs: PowerPoint, Excel and Word. Just to let you know, by the way, we're producing a number of mini guides, and one of those that we're planning for the future is going to be a little booklet which will have all those different icons in it from Word and PowerPoint and Excel, just with a very brief description of what they all do. So look out for that coming your way in the future. I think one of the best pieces of advice that I was ever given was when I was given my very first computer. The IT manager at the time said to me, "Bruce, just practice with the different applications on it." He said to me, "You can't break it. The best way of teaching yourself something on a computer is to just set yourself a challenge, go out and try and achieve it, and when you hit a brick wall or you come to something that you think you ought to be able to do but you just can't, come and ask me." Best piece of advice I've ever been given. It really is the way to do it. You try it and you'll be surprised how quickly you learn. Let's have a look at Excel and how it works then. Excel works by you giving it instructions in the form of different formulae. These formulae tell Excel to do something with the data that has been input into two or more cells. Essentially, you can do all the functions that you could perform on a calculator: addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, and a number of other functions as well. We're going to have a look at each of those during this short presentation. When you open Excel, you'll see that it's a massive table which forms a grid, and on that grid every single cell will have what is called an address. If you look at the little image on the screen, you can see that here the cursor is positioned in cell C3. You can see the column titles across the top: A, B, C, D, E, etc. And the rows are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That makes the cell here C3. And you can see those headers are highlighted, and you can also see the position of the cursor in that little address book there. So let's have a little look at some addition. And let's say we want to add together two cells that are on a sheet. Here we've added the cells together that are the numbers that are in C3 and D3, and we've used the formula equals C3 plus D3, and you'll see it's given the answer in E3, which is 97. Make sure, by the way, that when you're typing out your formulas that you don't leave any gaps, so everything runs directly into each other. Here we are in our Excel worksheet, and we're going to put our formula into the cell here. So as we looked at on the slide, equals C3 plus D3. And you'll notice that the cells have helpfully coloured themselves just so you can see where you've been. This is particularly useful if you're adding together a long set of numbers. And when I press enter, you will notice that it returns the answer that you're looking for. In other words, 97. Let's have a look at some slightly more complicated addition. You can in fact add together as many cells as you like. If you look at the image that we have here, we've used the formula equals C3 plus D3 plus B5 plus B7. So those little numbers could be absolutely anywhere on your spreadsheet and you can total them together. Here we have our 4 random numbers positioned in our spreadsheet, and just as we did last time, we're going to add those 4 numbers together. But I'm going to show you a little trick as to how we might do those. So when we come to our cell E3 where we'd like our answer to be put, I'm going to start by typing in our equals symbol, just as we've done for every other formula. And then what I'm going to do, I'm simply going to click into the cells where I want the answer to come from. So here we are, I'm just clicking in this cell and you'll see it's put the value C3 into the cell. Then I want to add another cell. So I'm going to add this one. And then I want to add my 3rd cell. So I'm going to click on that one. And now I'm going to add my 4th cell. I click on that one. When I'm satisfied that I've captured all the numbers, I simply press enter and I get the result that I'm looking for. It's exactly the same when you wish to perform subtraction. Essentially, we're going to use the same format, and you'll see in our little image here that we've used the formula equals A3 minus B3 minus C3 and minus D3. So we've taken those 3 numbers away from the original number in A3, which is 147. And you'll see the answer we've achieved is 63. Exactly the same principles apply when it comes to multiplication. However, we don't use the X symbol for multiplication, we use the star key. Here we've used the formula A3 times B3 times C3 times D3. And you'll notice we've got a very large number for our answer in cell block E3. Here we are in our spreadsheet again, and now we're looking at multiplication. So I'm in my answer cell, I'm putting in my equals to start the formula, and then I'm going to click on this cell and I'm going to insert my little star symbol, then this cell, another star symbol, this cell, other star symbol, and finally this cell, my last number in my sequence. Press enter, and here we have our long 7-digit number. Notice how the result in E3 was that really long number. We've got a couple of icons that will help us to help that number to make a little bit more sense. Let's have a look at those in an actual spreadsheet. I've expanded the view slightly just to show you how we can effectively make that number a little easier to read. If you look across here, we've got a little comma, and when I click on that, watch the impact on the number that we have in this cell here. Here I am clicking on comma, and you will see that what it's done is inserted the comma and the decimal place into our number, making it much easier for us to read. We can see that we've got a number of 1,649,340. That was much harder to read as a number before we'd put those separators into it. We use exactly the same principles when it comes to division. However, just like with multiplication, as you'll have noticed, there is no division symbol on your keypad. So what we use for division is the / key. Here we've used the formula C3 divided by D3, and we've got an answer of 12.25. Let's have a look at some more complex formulae. Here's our first one: equals sum, double brackets, A4 plus B4 plus C4, single bracket, divided by 12. We'll have a look at that on a spreadsheet to make it apparent exactly why you might need to use a formula like that. Looking now at the first of our more complex formula. Let's imagine that we've got some trading figures for our tyre manufacturing business, and we've recorded trading for the first 4 months, the second 4 months, and the third 4 months. In other words, this was our trading for 1 calendar year. But what we'd like to work out is our average monthly income. So what we need to do is to first of all add together those 3 figures, but then we need to divide the result by 12. Now we could do that in 2 separate cells and do the addition in one and then the division in another, but you can do this in a single cell. So here we are moving to cell number D4, and I'm going to use the formula that you saw in the PowerPoint presentation. In other words, equals sum. Now we're opening our brackets just like we used to do when we did maths at school for the additional part. So our first value plus our second value plus our third value. So those are the numbers that we want to add together. So we close off the first set of brackets. This is telling Excel that we want them to first add together those 3 figures. Then we'd like to divide the result of that by 12, closing our final bracket, and when I press enter, that will give us our average monthly income. So I'm pressing enter, and there we are. You can see that our average monthly income over that period was 468,226. Our next formula looks for the cell with the lowest value in a list, and we use the formula equals min, open brackets, A4 colon A24 close brackets. Let's imagine that this spreadsheet is looking at our daily till takings in our jewellery shop. As you can see, down the left hand side we have all of our till takings over a number of days. The thing that we can't easily see is which was our best day, which was our worst day. So let's have a look and see how we can quickly identify what was our worst trading day. Here we're going to use the sum minimum. So in my cell under worst days takings, I'm going to enter the formula equals min, open brackets, and what I can do here is to highlight all of the cells in this range, and you'll see over there in the cell it's highlighted cells A4 to A24. I close my bracket, and when I hit enter, you can see it's identified that on our worst day we only took £101.47. We might also wish to look at the opposite of that, which is the maximum or the largest number in a list. Here I've used the formula equals max A4 to A24. But let's think more positively. What was our best day of trading? So in the cell over here, I'd like to look at the best day's trading we had. That's where we use that formula equals max, open brackets, and again I'm going to select the whole range from top to bottom, and when I close brackets and I press enter, you'll see that our best day's trading was £376.90. Now incidentally, you'll see that as I entered those values, this became highlighted in green and this became highlighted in red. That's a little function in Excel called conditional formatting. I'm going to come back to that in a future week and we'll have a little bit of a deeper look at how you might use that. But you can see at a quick glance it's immediately shown you your best and your worst day based on those figures there. Similarly, we can also look for an average value, and here we have the formula equals average A4 to A24. In exactly the same way, we can look at what our average daily takings might be. So here we're using the formula equals average, open brackets, and again highlight all the cells in the range, close our brackets and press enter, and we can see that our average daily takings are £241.03. Another useful function is the ability to count something. So for example, you might have a list of names and you want to count how many names are in a list, or you might have trading over a certain number of days in your restaurant and you'd like to look at how many days of trading that you're analysing. Here we use the formula equals count A4 to A24. Let's have a look at that on a spreadsheet. Let's look now at, we've got a list of numbers there for our till takings, but maybe we don't know how many days it is that we're actually looking at. So what we would like to do is to count the number of entries that we have in our list here, and that's where that formula equals count comes in. So if we go over here to cell G4 and we type equals count, open bracket, highlight all our cells again, close brackets and press enter, and you'll see that what it's done is it's counted the number of cells in which we highlighted here, and that gave us a value of 21 days that we've been analysing in our little look at this spreadsheet. Our last formula today is one that mixes cleverly together with a little bit of calculation, but actually returns some word responses into the cell. The formula we're looking at is called an if argument. And what essentially we're going to be telling Excel is that if the value of A4 is greater than £200, then you want to see the words on budget. However, if it's not that value and it's not greater than 200, then you want to get the value of below budget. It's a slightly difficult one to understand, but when you look at it in the spreadsheet, I'm sure it'll make much more sense to you. I have two more things to show you for today's session. Firstly, we're looking at that little formula that we talked about, which is the if formula. Now, let's assume that we've set ourselves a performance to budget target. And let's say that we've decided that our estimated till takings for the day is going to be £200. That's when this argument becomes really useful. So let's look what happens. Over here, I'm going to type equals if. I'm going to open my brackets. Then I'm going to look at this cell here, which is cell A4, and say if it's greater than 200, which is what we've said should be our typical day's takings, I then put a comma for then, and by using inverted commas I can now insert some text. So I've inserted that, and I can put on budget, and I close my inverted commas. And if not, which is designated by another comma, in other words, if the value isn't greater than 200, again I can put some text dialogue in by opening inverted commas, typing below budget, closing those inverted commas. And you'll notice that in this particular example, because we're now looking at text, that I am actually able to insert a space between those words. So we'll close the brackets, we'll press enter, and you'll see that what's happened is that our figure here is below budget, because we've said our budget is £200 and we've only made £125.98 on that particular day. Now that was quite a lot of typing, and you're thinking to yourself, oh, if I've got to type that all the way down here, it's going to take me forever. The good news is that there's a shortcut for that. Notice what happens as I bring my cursor closer to the bottom right hand corner of this formula. See how it's changed to a black cross. If I now click and hold my mouse and drag it all the way down here, Excel will copy that formula for me. And you'll notice that what we now have are the days when we've been on budget and the days we've been below budget, written in text. And it makes, again, a really visual response to you looking at the days when you've had good and bad training. As always, if you have any questions or if you have any suggestions for future Little Wednesday workshops, then please do feel free to drop us a line or give us a call on the mobile or contact us through social media. However you're keeping in touch with everybody these days, we'd love to hear from you. Thanks for listening in, and please continue to keep well and keep safe.